Welcome everyone to Cost News Digest, the show where we are going to talk through some of the headlines around cost. So this week we wanted to jump in a little bit deeper to the recommendations and announcements that we've seen straight off the bat because, Sab, there have been some really cool ones coming out recently, right?
I'm excited. I'm really excited. Yes. The big news, I think, for probably this year so far, honestly, is split cost allocation data for EKS.
Yeah.
I think you've got a link to throw up here
Yep.
as well. But if you guys are not familiar, it is essentially an enhanced cost and usage report version that gives you insight into kind of more detail of what your EKS clusters are using. We launched a similar product for ECS, I believe it was a little over a year ago.
Yep.
And ever since that launch happened, the number one thing that everybody's asking is when is it coming for EKS? Because it just provides kind of so much more detail into what's going on in these containers. So really, really excited to announce it's here. You can play with it. And there are kind of some additional little add-ons that have been launched as well, along with kind of the big launch that are really exciting too. Number one, we've got a dashboard just right out of the gate.
Love a
So
dashboard.
love that. You don't have to be spooked by Cur data or try to kind of wade through the spreadsheet, right? We've got a dashboard that you can stand up right out of the gate. And then the real hidden gem that I want to call out as well, and I don't know if you have explored this piece of documentation, Steph, but
Ooh.
I love a good piece of documentation. But the split line item column page, I think it's linked off of the Cur doc. I'll drop the link in the chat here, or I think I can only drop it in the private chat. Truly beautiful piece of documentation. It's available for ACS as well. We've kind of adapted it now that the AKS version is there, but it does provide kind of a really good level of detail on what's going into these fields that you can turn on with split cost allocation. Super informative, especially if you are kind of a FinOps person who has like a vague notion of what EKS or ECS is and is hearing from the folks kind of on the engineering side that they want more detail into it. Like this provides a really good level of detail. And I think like really helped me understand like why this is a big deal and what's exciting about it. So definitely peruse that. If you're not scared of reading through a document that just tells you what's in columns. I loved it. So that's my big news story for the day. Questions, thoughts? Have you seen anybody use it yet?
I know that some of my customers are starting to jump into that. I know, and Yuri, who's in the dashboard for it, that's a great dashboard that I really recommend people kind of check out, and I'll make sure to link to it below. But the customers are getting excited. I think literally the day after it was announced, I got an email from a customer like, "How do I do this?" And I was like, "It's okay. We've got the documentation. We can share this." I'm just going to shout out in the chat the Blazer Squad. I mean, this is our new name, the only Blazer I have. Question from Eric: is it easy to enable the split cost?
It is pretty easy to enable. You do have to turn it on at the payer account level, and there's some kind of check boxes in the data exports page. Super easy, good to go. Walk through on the documentation page for it. Like a lot of our billing reports, it's not absolutely instantaneous, so you got to turn it on, kind of do the configuration, and then wait 24 hours, or sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, depending on where we are in the month, before you can get your hands on it.
And I think that you can just do it. You can edit your Cur to, like, you can amend it. So it's not like when you have resource ID and it's set forever. Like you can change this, so you can append it. So it's a great one. Awesome. Love the shout out.
I think it depends on the size of your account, but I've usually seen folks, especially with the ECS one, because I've helped a couple folks enable that one, create a new one just to kind of see and test it first before putting it onto their normal Cur. Obviously, it's completely up to you what you want to do. But, you know, if you want to sandbox for a little while and kind of just see what's in there before you take the plunge on the normal Cur that you have, then that's a very common path to take.
Perfect. And just as a shout out, we're actually going to have the team who did this come on the 1st of August. So make sure you check out that episode so we go deeper into this, because as you probably know, I never know anything about containers, so it's always good to bring in some experts. All right, let me just jump into two really quick ones for CloudWatch and config. So two things I wanted to focus on was CloudWatch metrics for monitoring config usage data will display only billable usage now. So it allows you to validate AWS config
Oh.
using CloudWatch to correlate billing. So it just gives you a little bit more detail into your config, which is something that I think is really powerful and really recommend more customers kind of utilize, but can be a bit of a mystery when it comes to cost. People sometimes ignore it. So this will give you a little bit more information. And the second CloudWatch one, as everyone knows, I love CloudWatch, is CloudWatch is excited to announce that you can use resource filtering across your organization to provide flexibility with a set of logs or metrics. So again, it gives you a little more filtering, a little bit more power to see into your data, which we always love to do. You know,
Love
can
that.
Sav, what other ones you got? You got some interesting?
Yeah, I've got a lot of kind of like fun extras as well. So Trusted Advisor.
Run through yours.
Yeah. Trusted Advisor supports an API to exclude resources now, which kind of at the outset, you're like, okay. But if you're a customer who's ever scaled up in preparation for a peak event and then had Trusted Advisor just yell at you a bunch, you'll understand why this is important. So you can kind of exclude things from what is in that report if you kind of need to X out a specific environment, if you're deliberately oversizing something or making some architectural choices to test and you just want to cut down on the noise there, that's now available to you, which is pretty exciting. And then not a ton to say about this one, but a lot of exciting stuff behind it. Cost anomaly detection reduces latency by up to 30%, which means that you can get those anomaly detections faster, which means that you can investigate them faster, resolve them faster. And if you do have a cost anomaly that's impacting you, you can get that sorted out kind of as quickly as possible, which is obviously super great.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on this last week with Jinshu, and I didn't even, this passed me by, as sometimes there's so many announcements. And don't forget, in a second, we'll be going through how you can actually get these announcements to your Slack following a blog that we've just published. But getting these announcements quicker is always valuable. So you don't have to do anything either. It's just done for you. It's just something we're going to let you know this is happening. Okay, what other ones have you got there, Seth?
Yeah, budgets now supports resource and tag-based access controls. So you can tag your budgets. That's really helpful if you have a lot of different budgets within your organization, or if you've configured kind of everything at the payer account and you have like a couple different portfolios of budget alarms that you want to make sure that you're kind of grouping together. And then tag-based access controls as well. So if you've got different people logging in to configure the budgets, you can kind of be a little bit more fine-grained there, which is great. And then the other really exciting one that I am super stoked about is that Resource Explorer now provides filtering on resources that support tags. So if you haven't checked out Resource Explorer yet, absolutely go check it out immediately. I love Resource Explorer. I think it's super powerful.
Savannah loves
if Resource Explorer does not have any fans, somebody send a wellness check over to my house because it means something's wrong. Okay. But it basically turns your console search bar into a search bar where you can search for resources. So you can drop a resource ID in there, jump right to it in console. Super powerful, super exciting. What we now have the ability to do is filter in that search bar directly through Resource Explorer whether or not a resource is taggable. So you can essentially search for resources that can be tagged and don't have tags. So if you're trying to up tagging compliance, you can use kind of the new syntax that they've launched to easily identify all of those in an account super quickly and just knock out that tagging right then. So super great. I'll say Resource Explorer one more time. Definitely go check it out if you haven't. It's a very powerful tool that I think everybody should be more excited about.
We need just like some hearts coming up and Savannah starts talking about Resource Explorer. Maybe we should do an episode how to use it a little bit more. I don't know if we touched on it on a video before, but we could go into like the tagging elements of it. Amazing. So that was some great announcements that we've had. And I wanted to touch on this. So where's the blog link? We released this blog the other day. It was really very recent, which is how you can keep track of this. So we love to do this show because we love to kind of, for ourselves, we love to learn a little bit about the announcements coming out and also hopefully to share these. But this blog shows you how to get the announcements. So a look behind the screen or whatever, behind the curtain. We use this internally for this episode. So we have a Slack channel where all of these announcements go to, and then we filter them and find the ones that we think are interesting for the show. So if you are like, wow, there's so many announcements, these guys just covered a couple of them and want to see all of them, you can deploy this to get those into your Slack channel super quickly. And then you'll always make sure that you know about these things and become aware of them. Like, I really want to touch this, extended support. Savannah, do you know a lot about RDS extended support? Do you want to?
I know a medium amount about it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Do you want to have a go at explaining it?
Yeah. So within I think the past couple months, we've announced essentially extended support for different RDS versions, which means that we're obviously encouraging everybody to upload or update to the latest and greatest. We have extended support periods that are kind of published in some blog links that I think Steph will, or likely right now, is dropping in the chat as well, to show the timelines involved here and to show essentially when everybody needs to be on the new version, and what that offboarding process looks like, how long AWS is going to be maintaining those versions, and kind of what you need to do as an AWS user to make sure that you're ready and make sure that you are kind of understanding where you fall in these tranches, and what to do next.
Yeah, and it's something that people have been asking for us to do kind of some information, an episode on, and provide some information on. And before we do, I want to see who has been looking at this. Let's throw up a quick poll. So chat, calling upon you. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Who has actually looked into extended support recently? So have people actually been looking into if they've been affected? How do people actually know what this is, and have they started to review it? Because I think that it might be creeping up on some people, and we want to make sure that we keep an eye on it. So people are looking into it. Okay, most people are saying yes. That is good. That is consoling, because I was worried it was going to be sparking some issues with people. Okay, brilliant. Lots of yeses. Okay, cool. All right, let's take that down. Oh, someone said no. All right, this makes us irrelevant now. Someone said no, so we can definitely dive into it. Thank you, everybody. So what we'll say is, I was thinking about, like, okay, I was panicking. I was like, what do I need to do? How do I need to learn about this? How am I going to help my customers with it? There's so much information. But our lovely friends at the CFM Tips site have already looked into this. So they already have a ton of information diving into some of this. So I'm going to throw this up on the screen. So they've got all these timelines that were mentioned, which are super helpful just to visualize out what is happening with the different database engines. So what I would urge you to do is go to this site and start to see if any of your RDS instances are going to be covered by this or affected by this. And then you'll be able to figure out how you can improve them. If you are someone that has enabled that kind of incremental version increase, so if you go onto RDS, you can actually say, do the minor upgrades, and you are probably okay. But we want to make sure that you don't waste any money when it comes to this.
Yeah, there is a cost associated with some of these tiers, so definitely check it out. The other kind of big plug that I have for folks is, if you weren't aware of extended support, it's likely a really good time to check out where those notifications are going and how your account is configured in terms of technical contact, billing contact, etc. Because you want to make sure that you're kind of keeping on top of that stuff. That's how a lot of these kind of system-wide, AWS-wide changes are going to be kind of announced. If you have an existing relationship with AWS, if you have an account team, technical account manager, etc., you're likely hearing from them as well. But it is important to make sure that those notification channels are going somewhere where you're actually taking a peek at them every once in a while, because there's really good information in there.
So are they coming through, like the billing contact should be getting all this information about these, is what we're hoping?
I think it is the technical contact for a lot of these, but in general, making sure that all of those contacts are up to date and like going to an inbox that you're looking at, or at least taking a peek at, is hyper important, because again, like, this is an update and kind of a modernization adjacent piece, but there are other like AWS wide announcements that are pretty critical to know and understand, right? And that is what we use to communicate with folks.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I feel like I could tell a funny story. We have a bit of time. When I was at my last company, it was slightly off this, where the phone number we used, I think for like the official number for our company, was not a number. It was like a desk number, but we didn't have desk phones. And so it just kept like going off into the ether. And we'd like mucked up a phone or something. And so the phone that we had used for all of our MFA, I don't know if I'm supposed to tell the story, but I don't work there anymore. The MFA that we set up like was on a phone, but someone left it in like a drawer because we never really used it. It just rebooted and we lost them all. And then we didn't have a phone number to reset it.
Oh.
So this is a good call out to make sure you do know the number that is set on that account and the contact. So maybe go check that out if you're not sure.
Yeah, I think you are in good company, Steph, with that story. That is incredibly relatable for a lot of folks out there, making sure that you at least have record of like which accounts have which MFA is pretty important, because that's absolutely a common problem, especially if you're kind of a company that's grown in the cloud. If you're kind of pre-account creation process or pre-governance when you're still super small, it's very likely that be like, oh yeah, let me tie myself onto that. Great.
Yeah.
So definitely worth looking at a refresh every once in a while to make sure that you know where everything's going. Hopefully you'll never need it, but if you do, it's important to know where everything is. And to not, or to at least know where that desk is so you can listen to the ring.
Where the desk is. What I understand. All right. So one last thing. One for yes, two for no. Who has used Bedrock yet? That's what I want to know, because there have been a bunch of announcements around Bedrock and how it can be used to optimize cost that we wanted to dive into. And I have actually started to use it a little bit, started to ask some questions to it to see if it can help me. We're going to start using some Gen AI stuff on the Amazon side to start creating some blog posts from summaries of this episode to help kind of us write those to summarize what we actually spoke about. So we want to read that. And it seems like people are using it, which is great. So if you are, being aware of the pricing is going to be really important. I mean, Sab, should we run through some of these pricing elements one at a time and just kind of run through them? Do you want to go first? I'll put them up.
Yeah, so I think kind of one of the announcements that we had flagged when we were kind of collating data for this episode was that Bedrock now supports a provision throughput pricing model that is going to enable you to essentially let AWS know an estimate of what you're looking for, get that at a more cost-effective rate. I think if you're kind of still in the playing around stage with Bedrock or any Gen AI product and you're not exactly sure what that's going to look like at scale yet, it's still good to have an understanding of what pricing applies to the tools that you're checking out, just so you can kind of have that in the back of your mind as you're thinking about how it's going to apply to your business. You can kind of develop the FinOps strategy for that a little bit longer term as well.
Yeah, and a couple of like things like connecting with Bedrock, like we have Titan Text Premier, latest addition to the family is now available in Bedrock. So this is like an advanced, high performance, cost effective LLM engineering support performance thing. So it's, again, with these kind of announcements, if you're going to start using them, like try them out, see what's going to affect to the pricing. The same for the watermark features. So there's a bunch. I'll drop all these in the chat because there's so many and we haven't got enough time to dive into all the elements of Bedrock. But I think what's good to know is that there are loads of pricing informations around this, and just be aware and be mindful of things that are coming out. But I think one of the ones that we both know more about, which is Q, is generally available. Which is an AI-powered assistant that is hopefully going to increase your experience and usage of Amazon stuff. And it also integrates with things like QuickSight, which we're going to be doing. But have you used Q at all? Have you asked any fun questions?
I've asked it a couple questions internally, and I've seen my customers ask it a few questions. I think my most core memory of Q was when the question queue in console launched during reInvent when I was doing a demo. I was like, what is this? And then played with it afterwards. And I was like, this is actually really helpful. These links are great. So
yeah, I used it the other day to ask it what was the pricing difference between like two versions of RDS, which is obviously like you just go to normally I would just go to the pricing page and I would find like this version and I would scroll, like find the next one and go to it. But then I was like, oh, Q's there. Let me just type this in. And then it gave it to me and I went and checked it because it's still new. And so I just wanted to see. But it was right. And it's fine. If I'd not bothered to go check it, it would have saved me so much time. So really encourage people to ask it a question and see what it says. Just smart stuff.
I love it to find links
Mm.
I don't know if you have the shared experience stuff, but at this point, I feel like my Firefox and Chrome history internally are like my most treasured thing because I've gone to so many pieces of documentation, um, obviously in my daily work, and it remembers them. So it's easy to find links that way. But with
Yeah.
Q, like it's even easier because you can be like, where is the documentation for this? And it'll link you to that documentation. So if you're not
Yeah.
sure what's out there, or if you just need like a quick link to
Oh,
something,
yeah.
great. Love it. Absolutely love that.
That's a good point, actually. I'm going to start using that for something I'm building. Clever points.
Mm.
Okay, well, that is it for all of our announcements. Hopefully, you found some of those useful. And as I said before, all the links will be in the comments below, so you can kind of dive into each one of those. But if you need anything else, as always, feel free to email us at costoptimization@amazon.com. And we will be back next week, same time. Yeah, thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.